Today, my very special guest on Hello Darling is Craig Waterman. Craig Waterman is father of 9, tradie, bush poet, and now turned mental health advocate. After battling depression for many years, he was able to turn his life around and now works in the mental health field to help others. He founded Squared Away in 2018, a non-for-profit organization that helps men to overcome mental health issues and achieve their dreams. The organization offers accommodation to men who are struggling, allowing them to find support, guidance, and community in a safe environment. Hello, darling. Welcome to my show.
Hello, darling.
So nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Pat.
Craig, you are the founder of Squared Away.
Yes, that's right.
Tell me about the organization and what inspired you to do it.
We are a men's mental health organisation and we also run as a disability service. So as we found that the two go hand in hand, and I was inspired by my own journey over a period of time and realised that something needed to be done and stepped into the space.
So before we go to your own journey, how does Squared Away work? How do you help men with mental health issues?
Squared Away is basically a gateway. So what we do is we sit and just chat with fellas and help them just process what might be going on in their lives and then help them make the decision to go and seek professional help. So we're just people, normal run-of-the-mill, everyday people that know how to talk to young men and old men and just draw out of them what their problem might be and then sit with them until they decide that they need a little bit of help. And then we will walk them side by side into a doctor, into a psychologist, whatever it might take, into counselling, and just help them to get their journey started and make some better decisions in their lives.
Incredible. And how do you gain their confidence to share with you the deepest, probably hidden issues that they go through? Because you said to draw away and your gesture was actually symbolizing men don't talk, boys don't cry.
Yes.
You have to get it out of them.
We have a property that we get fellas to come and visit us at, and sometimes they might want to be in the shed with me playing with a lawnmower or working on tools while we talk. We might go and sit out in the paddock, we might be patting a horse, we might be just sitting having a coffee, listening to the birds. Sometimes late in the afternoon, it might actually be having a beer because that makes them feel comfortable. Whatever it takes to make them begin to speak. And it's very hard to get some fellas to speak, but once you start them and you find the level that they're at, then you can actually start to draw things out with a couple of questions. I've got some people around me with a bit of training that will sit close by and help them be involved, and they will let us know when we've got enough. Mm-hmm. And then it's just a matter of teaching a bloke to decide for himself that he actually needs something. So you share a little bit of information back. I give some of my story across. A couple of the other guys that we've helped might step in and give their story across. And suddenly he becomes part of a community. He's no longer alone.
And also, a day he came to you, to Squared Away, he already made his own decision or choice
very much
to seek help.
That's very much what goes on. So sometimes it starts with a phone call. Sometimes it starts with a mate that just says, get in the car, we're going for a ride. And they'll turn up to me. Some guys are very standoffish at first and they will go away the first time, but then they'll make the choice. A week later, I'll hear from them. They go, look, I wouldn't mind just 10 minutes of your time. But if you don't plant that seed or let them know that there's something different available for them, what a lot of fellas don't want is a clinical space. Mm-hmm. You take them and sit them in that doctor's waiting room, anxiety builds up, they're out of there. Mm-hmm. You might never get them back there again. Mm-hmm. You put them out into nature, into a shed, into a space that they're comfortable in, and they open up. They're prepared to go back to a space they're comfortable in. You put them into a space where they just go, I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. You might not ever see them back there again. And I experienced that myself. I could not sit in those clinical waiting rooms with 10 other people knowing that they knew that there was something wrong with me.
Wow. Well, now, please tell me about your own mental health journey. Where did it start?
Well, started probably, it was a long, long time ago. I realised looking back now that from very young, I was different. As much as I joined in with a lot of things, I also withdrew an awful lot. I was that, while my brothers were out playing in the yard, kicking the football and playing cricket, I was sitting in the beanbag in the corner reading a book or watching the TV show or withdrawing away. I'd go out and I'd join in now and then, but I spent a lot more time alone just doing things that I wanted to do, and consequently I never I didn't develop some of the social stuff that they developed. So growing up through life, I had to play catch up after a while, and it wasn't until I got to that point in life where I guess, you know, you get to high school, puberty comes along, girls become involved, and suddenly think, well, there's only one way, you've got to get out there. But I had to also fake a lot of that. I was out there joining in with things because it felt like the right thing to do, but still I took off and hid myself away as often as I could. I read 3 books a week now. I still take myself away even to this day, and I have to have my alone time. It's very important, and some people are built that way, and you don't necessarily need to change it as much as guide that with some of these fellas. So
There's nothing wrong with wanting being alone, but if you use being alone to hide away,
that's correct. That's the difference.
that's when the
very different.
difficulty would
Yeah.
arise. Yes.
Yes, and that's where I guess we need to. One of the things we'll do is teach people to make the decision to come out and join in with things again. And some people it becomes a habit. And yeah, I suppose with myself it became a habit as the journey went on. But then I met a lovely lady. We got married. I became the life of the party. I became the humorous one. I became the storyteller. I became, I was the guy that created things for people. But within all of that, I still knew that wasn't all of me. I still needed to be alone and hide my space. And I have 9 children with that same lovely lady that I first married. And so I had to get out and I had to be out in public an awful lot. But within it all, I was broken. I was still going to work, doing what I needed to do every day. But the broken part of me, I had to tuck it away into a corner. But I still found after a number of years that as the journey went on, I knew that there was a major problem going on inside me, but I couldn't show it to my children. I couldn't show it to the wife. I couldn't show it to my family, my friends. But I started finding myself curled up on the shower floor crying, and there's going to be plenty of people out there that can relate to that one. And then once you've cried it all out, you get up and you shake it off and out you go again. But that's not the way to fix it.
Okay. What did you use as a tool to
Alcohol. Alcohol was a major tool for me. It made me funnier. It made me braver. It made me part of the gang. All the things I didn't really need to be once I finally figured it all out. You don't need to be all of those things to anyone else. It's who you are to yourself, which is probably the part of the journey I'm in right now in my life. You've got to learn some of these things, but within that, it'd be nice if there had been someone along the way to show me some of those things as well. So and that I guess that's what I'm doing now with Squared Away is I'm showing some of these fellas a shorter way to get to where they need to be. And look, that's not necessarily perfectly well and healthy. It's just better. And there's always a way to better, and it's small steps.
Okay. Craig, take me back to your journey. What was your lowest point of your depression and of your struggle?
Right. Probably, I think it worked out about 9 years ago. I was in very, very poor mental health for a long period of time, and it did lead to the breakup of my marriage and so forth. But about 9 years ago, I had enough, and I was drinking to excess. I was a 20 Corona a day man, and I was working, long hours, crawling through hot roofs, doing an air conditioning business and an electrical business, and coming home, and I was just ploughing beers in like nobody's business, then getting up and doing it all again. And within all that, there was anger built up, there was resentment, there was a lot of different things. But I knew that somewhere deep inside, I didn't want to be here anymore. But for my kids, I kept fighting on. Then I got to a point one day where I drove down to the end of our street, down past the river there, and I was in the bush and everything was all set up and I was ready to go. I was going to basically take my own life that day. And I was very angry with my now ex-wife, then wife. I believed at the time that she was the one that was pushing the buttons, wasn't listening, that she was a major trigger in all of this. When in actual fact, it was just my own poor mental health that made everyone else seem like they were a trigger in all of it. She rang as I was sitting there having a couple of beers in the car, looking at the water, getting ready to finish things off. And I just wanted to hurt her one more time because of the anger that I had in me. And my 6-year-old son was on the phone. And every time I tell this story, I get a bit emotional. And all he said was, "Dad, when are you coming home?" And that flicked me over. It got me to a point where I just held on for a little bit. Then the police came through the bush turned me around. So, yeah, excuse me for a minute. Yeah.
And how did police knew that you were there?
My ex-wife had an inkling, so she sent them down to that area, knowing that bush, water,
Wow.
yeah, and it was somewhere that I went quite often to finish my day and have a beer. And yeah, so that was interesting that she managed to pick that within me and send them down there, and they turned me around, and I started to get a bit of help. It still had its ups and downs for the next few years after that, and led to a couple of very low times there again. But then I ended up going to bed, and it was safer to be in bed than to be out and about, where I could do damage to me and damage to other people's lives. So I spent probably the best part of 4 years just laying around in bed, not going anywhere, just sleeping all day long, medicated.
And this is what I wanted to ask you. At the Men in Black Ball, where you were the testimonial speaker,
Yeah.
you shared the story about making your own bed.
Yes.
That's my next question.
So I was sent a link to a YouTube video by Admiral William H. McRaven from the US Navy's Navy SEAL Admiral. And I sat and I watched it, and he tells this magnificent story that the key words in it are, if you want to change your world, make your bed. And I was laying in bed at the time, and I watched it again, and he goes back over the process of what making your bed does and how it starts your journey for the day. So I did do it. I got out of bed and I thought, I'm going to do this. And I turned around and I made the bed. And it's amazing when you make the bed like that, you turn around and you look at it. Now, an unwell mind seeks chaos and lives in chaos. All minds crave order. When you see something that is ordered like that, you don't wish to disturb it. You look at it and it's an achievement, it's an accomplishment. So therefore, I didn't want to upset that bed. Now, I did end up going out, and every now and then I'd fall asleep on the lounge, but I'd stay out of the room and I'd do some things, and I'd eventually started to build my day back up by making that bed every day and not going back to it. Occasionally I even went back and lay on top of the bed, but I would not break the making of that bed. And I got to the point where all of a sudden I'm back out, I'm mowing lawns again, I'm doing gardening, I'm helping out, I'm chatting with the kids, I'm taking care of my personal hygiene in a better way. You start to add little things on and little achievements each day, and the chaos that your life has become starts to show order again. And it's very, very important for a mind that is getting well to see order so that it knows where it needs to go, because that's what we ultimately all crave. So, yeah, it was an interesting part of the journey. And funnily enough, I've only just started recently. I've added to that for myself.
Yes.
Because I've become very busy over the last number of years, and I started to push myself too hard, going 7 days a week and out there helping other people and doing stuff. Now when I make my bed on a Saturday or a Sunday, I actually complete making the bed, then I fold one side of it back down again. I give myself permission to go back and rest.
Yes.
Which I hadn't done before.
Fantastic.
And I've learned that that's very important, that if I don't rest, then I start to slide back the other way. Rest is very important.
Beautiful. So my question was, after your lowest point in your life, apart from making your bed,
Yep.
how did you turn your life around? What was the most important key factors that made it possible?
Volunteering. I was asked to come out by a mate of mine who was also suffering with poor mental health. He said, look, we've got a lady that's got an issue in her home. It's very untidy. She's on her own, and just things have got out of hand. Can you come and give me a hand? And we ended up, 3 or 4 of us fellas went round there and just started cleaning up. And by the time we'd finished, we'd painted this lady's house out completely for her and done all it. And we just bonded as a group, and things went really well. And by day 3, we'd decided that we were going to do this more often. And it made us all feel good. We were not stuck at home as individuals. We were there as a group. On day 3, a couple of the fellas were ex-military, and I wandered in. I said, we should call this group Squared Away, because that's what we're doing for people. We're getting their lives squared away.
Yes.
So next thing you know, we've got ourselves a registered charity. It's an incorporated body, and we're now a public benevolent institution. And within that, it's come full circle.
Okay, so just to get it right.
Yep.
The first activity to help somebody to clear the house, their mess, yeah?
Yes. Yep.
Took you to gave you the direction.
Yeah, it gave us the direction. Yep. To form this. I knew it made me feel better. And giving is something that makes people feel better. If you give with no expectation of return, there's a euphoria that's in there. When it comes to our poor mental health, we get given tablets for it. So they're the missing chemicals, right? So what we've got to do, in my opinion, is re-trigger some of those fantastic chemicals in ourselves. So we get our euphoria, we get our adrenaline going, we get all the missing ingredients that are in there. We got to go and find what's missing within ourselves. And for me, I felt good by doing things for others with no expectation of anything ever coming back my way. And I've taught that to a number of other fellas. And when they do it, they walk away feeling great. And if you change your situation just to do something good for someone else, or even eventually doing something good for yourself, then you get a little push. That's what we're all looking for. And if you can recreate that feeling time and time again, balance comes back into your life. And you change your actions, you start to change your language.
Yes.
Wellness is, language is key to it. So
Yes.
if you talk well and talk well of yourself, you'll start to feel better about yourself. I used to tell people how unwell I was, how bad I felt, and now I don't. I tell people how good I am, how wonderful life is, how I've changed things around, how I've stepped forward. The space I used to live in, I no longer live in. I'll never step back there, ever. And I've got people that were part of my life back then that are still in that space, but I've given them the opportunity very clearly that they can step forward to where I am, but I will not be stepping back to that space because it was not a life I ever want to live.
You are a bush poet.
Yes.
One of my.
Love it. Love writing it. That actually helps me as well. Yeah.
When did you discover your talent for writing?
My old high school English teachers would tell you I have no talent for writing because I failed English all the way through. But I used to love to scratch things down, and I would write things down and just throw them away and look at it and go, it's nothing. But I remember sitting there watching the very first Alan Border medal, I think in 2000 or 2001, and I wrote a poem called The Baggy Green. And I looked at it at the end, and I rang my brother who played a lot of cricket and read it to him on the night, and he went, "That's bloody great, mate." And from there on, I thought I'll start to actually explore and keep some of these things that I'm writing down, and then it just started to flow from there. And then, but I make a point of capturing my feelings in the moment. So sometimes people can throw me a subject and say, "Can you write something on this?" And I can do it. But the ones I write in the moment, when something actually inspires me, they're the ones I love. I really, truly enjoy them. And sometimes I use it to explain a circumstance or something that's gone on in my life so that people get a better understanding of it. If you're expressing how you feel, but they're not receptive to it at that particular time, then you don't get the opportunity again. Through poetry, they can go back to it at a time when they're receptive to it.
Yes.
And hear it again and read it again, and it might mean something entirely different.
Yes.
And that's where I find it's very important to get it right and to use the correct language where people can go, "That's me," and
That's incredible.
that's me.
Craig, you wrote a poem which is one of my most favorite ones from those that I read, called Alone.
Alone.
Now, I want to ask you about being alone and feeling alone that you quoting in your poetry. Tell me about your perception of feeling lonely, alone.
Yeah, lonely and alone are two very, very different things. Very different. And lonely is it comes with feelings of sadness, sometimes anger, regret. Things are attached along with that. Feeling alone, it's just a feeling of isolation, total isolation. Now you can do it two ways. You can choose it and use it as a tool to move forward with, to give yourself time for reflection and growth. But sometimes you can be in amongst friends and family and in a social setting, and you feel so totally alone and isolated. It's like you just don't exist, and that's what that poem's about. So yeah, you're alone in a room full of strangers that you know so well, but you just feel alone.
And why do you feel alone? Is it because the people don't communicate to you or don't care?
Yes.
Or is it because of your own mental state, choice of mind, that you feel alone? That's my question to you.
Looking back now, I always used to blame others for it, but I now know that my body language and the language I was using in answers to questions at that time, people very quickly isolated you in a social setting. You might be in amongst 20 or 30 people, but if your body language was poor, people pick up on that. Everyone's very perceptive in that regard. And then you hear someone trying to have a conversation with you and ask questions, and you start answering in the negative. People around you hearing that, just boom, they start to pull away, especially if they're in a positive frame of mind. People are not going to accept that. Next thing you know, you're isolated. And as I say, I used to think people were leaving me alone because they didn't like me or whatever. It was because of who I was and what I was portraying at the time. And that comes again with poor mental health. Wellness is something you've got to practice. You know, the old fake it till you make it.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're not faking it. Faking it's the wrong language, right? If you practice being well and practice being happy, then it's like when you practice kicking for goal at the football. Eventually it becomes very natural to you. So you get up and you're just happy. You're just well. You just start doing things differently. If it's clinical, it's entirely different with your depression and so forth. Then you do need that medication and that help. And you definitely need to see people and talk to people. That's important. But I also found that as I got well, the habits of depression stayed with me. That's the part I had to change to get really happy again.
Explain me the habits of depression.
Well, I kept doing things that I was doing when I was unwell.
Okay.
So it might have been like not mowing my lawn when I should, or not getting out of bed at an early time, not going and exercising and doing all the things that I'd fallen into to become habit, which doesn't take long to form a habit. You've then got to consciously go and redo all of that and start again. So get up and go for your walk. Get up and ring a mate. Do all the things that make you happy. You've got to start practicing them again. And they're hard. It's hard because sometimes you feel disconnected. You might have broken a few social connections. There might be a few things that have just not quite gone right for you. You don't know how to redo it. Start. Just pick up the phone and start, or get up and put your shoes on and walk out.
What would be your advice to young viewers watching us today, or all ages viewers, that are struggling, that didn't have the tools or didn't find the tools? What would be your first word of advice?
Water your lawn. Get a hose, go and stand out the front of the evening over the summer, water your front lawn and talk to the people.
But they're still lonely. They mow the lawn and they're still lonely.
Yeah,
they don't have community. They're sitting on a computer.
Yeah.
They feel ashamed of their feelings. What do they do?
Really, it's just reach to one person, I guess. And everybody knows someone else that they think is suffering worse than them. So find your community and talk to each other. Communication is very much key, but then you've also got to have, everybody craves physical touch. So to be able to go and stand in front of someone, reach out and shake hands, talk to them, get contact, get eye contact.
Okay, go to a pub.
Go to a pub.
I mean,
and you don't have to drink when you go to a pub.
No, of course, I don't. Yeah, well,
and that's,
yeah.
yeah. But some of them think, oh, I'm not going down there, everyone's drinking. I've actually got a couple of young fellas within our family group that don't drink, and they still turn up to all the sessions. They have a great time.
Another question to you. Your rock bottom, when you hit the rock bottom, when you almost took
Yep.
your own life,
Yep.
became your foundation.
Yes.
Where do you think the urge and the responsibility to continue helping others came from? You don't have to do what you do.
No, I don't have to do what I do. I enjoy what I do. I very much enjoy what I do. It gives me a sense of purpose, and I guess that's what's quite often lacking when you're at rock bottom. Some people try and hit rock bottom and bounce back in the same direction they came from. Bad choice. Yeah. Or if that's what got you there, don't go there again. You need to go somewhere else. And that might be as simple as sitting with someone that's going to give you a few more ideas on, like, say I'm a tradesman. I was 35 years as a tradie, electrician, did air conditioning, building maintenance, and now all of a sudden I'm a disability support worker. I get to go out and change someone's life every day.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Are you so grateful to the universe to have allowed you to find
Absolutely. Yep.
your light,
Yep.
that you're feeling obliged in a right way,
Yep.
to continue giving back?
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's an obligation to me so much as the enjoyment.
Okay.
I found what I like,
Yes.
and I think that's probably rare for people these days.
Vision for Squared Away. Where would you like to go with it? How people find out about Squared Away?
Okay, Squared Away, probably just go to the website, squaredaway.org.au. I'm pretty sure it is. Yep. No, I don't look it up. So, yeah. Squared Away, we've become a registered NDIS provider due to the link that we found with poor mental health and disability. So that somewhere there's a link in between. So we stick more to the psychosocial side of things. So we're taking that now going forward and becoming, I guess, a more expanded group where we're still doing mental health work every day with blokes, but within that we'll expand out to make sure that everybody gets what they need.
Beautiful.
And we don't let them go until we do that.
So that's the gateway
Yeah,
to the
we are the gateway to
Yes.
move them forward. But within that, once we know that we've got someone that we can say, right, we can actually help you with this, then we will hang on to them and make sure that their life gets better each and every day, and we find the right people to match up with them.
Thank you, Craig. Now, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I hope there will be a lot of viewers that will draw inspiration
Yep.
and find and do the 1 square meter rule with you.
Yes, yeah, the 1 square metre is very important.
My tradition is to give my guests at the end a magic wand. And if I give you a magic wand and you have 2 wishes, one for yourself
Yep.
and one for the world,
Yep.
what would be your wishes?
Okay, the magic wand for the world, with the 1 square metre rule, where you just make your world of order better by 1 square metre at a time. I would hope for 1 square metre of peace to grow at a time. And eventually, if everyone had 9 billion people or 7.5 billion people, however many of us is, if everyone created 1 square metre of peace around themselves, we'd solve a lot of issues around the world. As for myself, I just want to be able to progress the same way that I'm going right now and learn the same way I'm learning right now. I was stagnant for so long, and I need to use the part of life that I missed out on when I was stagnant as a tool to make sure I'm happy until my very last breath.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for making a difference and for coming here today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.